You have the right to remain silent. The officer's boot pressed into Harrison Wells's spine, grinding his face against oil-stained concrete. Stop resisting. I'm not. Harrison's words cut off as handcuffs bit into his wrists. 20 feet away, Lena Ellison, CEO, billionaire, the woman he'd just saved from 4 armed kidnappers, screamed at the officers. You're arresting the wrong man. He saved my life. The lead officer didn't even look at her. Ma'am, step back. Let us do our job. Your job? He's a hero. Ma'am, final warning. Harrison lay there, cheek pressed against concrete that smelled like exhaust and old motor oil, staring at the 4 unconscious kidnappers sprawled around the parking garage. Professional operators, armed with Glocks and zip ties. They'd planned this for weeks. He'd stop them in 90 seconds. Dangerous individuals secured, the officer radioed. Black male, approximately 6'2", military-grade combat skills. Possible accomplice to the kidnapping. Lena's voice cracked. What is wrong with you people? Look at the kidnappers. Look at them. They weren't looking. They never looked at men who looked like Harrison. Not really. They saw what they expected to see. 4 unconscious armed men, 1 black janitor with skills he shouldn't have. In America, the math was simple. 72 hours later, Harrison sat in a county holding cell, facing 4 counts of aggravated assault and 15 to 25 years in prison. The real kidnapper for Marcus Whitmore, Lena's own CFO, the man who'd orchestrated the entire abduction, was negotiating a plea deal from a comfortable interrogation room with his $800 an hour attorney. Harrison's reward for saving a billionaire's life? Termination letter from Sterling, property management, exceeded janitorial duties, created liability situation, effective immediately, felony charges from District Attorney Gerald Hammond, used excessive force, took the law into his own hands. We must send a message. Media circus questioning whether a mysterious janitor with secret military training was really a hero or had somehow staged the whole thing. Where did he get those skills? What was he really doing in that parking garage? Harrison stared at the concrete walls of his cell. 3 purple hearts. Bronze Star with Valor. 8 years of service. Honorably discharged after watching his entire unit die in an ambush outside Kandahar. None of it mattered. In the end, he was just another black man who'd forgotten his place. But Lena Ellison hadn't built a $4.2 billion tech empire by accepting injustice. And Harrison Wells hadn't survived 3 tours in Afghanistan to be destroyed by a system that refused to see him. Their alliance was about to change everything. Tuesday, 11:34 p.m. Harrison pushed the industrial mop across the executive parking level of Sterling Tower, watching dirty water spread across polished concrete. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. His earbuds played Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, low enough to hear footsteps, loud enough to drown out memories. Afghanistan had taught him to always listen for footsteps. His phone buzzed. Text from his landlord. Rent due Friday, no extensions this time. Harrison checked his bank balance. $847.23. Rent was $950. Payday wasn't until next Wednesday. He was 32 years old, decorated combat veteran, and he couldn't make rent. His reflection stared back from a Mercedes windshield. 6'2", lean muscle that wouldn't quit no matter how many years he spent pushing mops instead of running drills. The scar above his left eyebrow from shrapnel in Kandahar. Another along his jaw from the explosion that killed everyone but him. Why did you survive, Wells? Why you and not them? Captain Morrison's voice from the field hospital in Germany. Harrison had asked himself that question every day for 4 years. He'd tried everything after discharge. Security work, fired after 3 months when a supervisor saw him freeze during a fire alarm. Too much like incoming mortars. Construction, lasted 2 weeks before the nail gun sounds triggered a panic attack. College on the GI Bill, dropped out after a semester when he couldn't sit in classrooms with his back to the door. The PTSD had taken everything. His career, his future, his ability to be around people without scanning for threats, planning escape routes, calculating kill zones. Janitorial work was perfect. Night shift, alone, no questions, no expectations. Nobody looking at him like he was broken. nobody knowing what he could do. 47 p.m. Harrison rounded the corner toward the executive spaces, reserved spots for the C-suite. That's when he heard it. Not footsteps. A muffled scream. His body reacted before his mind caught up. The mop clattered to the floor. Miles Davis kept playing in his earbuds as Harrison moved toward the sound. Every sense suddenly electric. Muscle memory from 8 years of combat training flooding back. 4 men. Black tactical gear. Balaclavas. One holding a woman in a business suit, hand clamped over her mouth. 3 others flanking a black cargo van, side door open. The woman's eyes, wide with terror, locked onto Harrison's. He recognized her. Everyone who worked at Sterling Tower recognized her. Lena Ellison, tech CEO, worth billions, face on magazine covers. She'd walked past him a dozen times, never seeing him, just another invisible janitor cleaning up after the important people. Now she was seeing him. One of the kidnappers spotted Harrison. "Hey, security?" The tactical situation assessed itself in Harrison's mind automatically. 4 hostiles, 3 armed, he could see the bulges of concealed weapons, one holding the primary target, 27 feet of distance, concrete pillars for cover, the van positioned for quick escape. He should walk away. Call 911. Let the professionals handle it. He was a janitor. This wasn't his problem. "Why did you survive, Wells?" Lena's eyes pleaded with him. Harrison pulled out his earbuds. "Let her go." The lead kidnapper, tall, military bearing, laughed. "Go back to mopping, janitor. This doesn't concern you." "I said let her go, Bayam. Or what?" Harrison's hands hung loose at his sides. His breathing slowed, his vision sharpened. 4 years of PTSD, of running from his past, of hiding what he was. All of it fell away. He'd spent years believing his training only brought death. Tonight he'd find out if it could save a life. "Last chance," Harrison said quietly. The kidnapper reached for his weapon. Harrison moved. The sirens arrived at 11:52 p.m. Harrison stood over 4 unconscious bodies, chest heaving, still holding the metal pipe he'd taken from one of the kidnappers. Blood, not his, spattered his janitor's uniform. Lena sat against a concrete pillar 20 feet away, cable ties still dangling from her wrists where Harrison had cut them. "Police, drop the weapon!" Harrison let the pipe clatter to the ground, raised his hands slowly, fingers spread. "On the ground, now!" He dropped to his knees, then his stomach, hands behind his head. The concrete was cold against his cheek. He knew this position, had been taught it, had seen it go wrong too many times. Boots rushed past him, toward him, around him. "We've got 4 down, need medical." "Check the woman, this one's got a gun." Lena's voice cut through the chaos. "Officers, that man saved my life. He stopped them." Heavy weight crashed onto Harrison's back, knee between his shoulder blades. Hands yanked his arms down, wrenching his shoulders. Metal handcuffs bit into his wrists. "You have the right to remain silent." "Listen to me." Lena's voice cracked with desperation. "He's not the criminal. He saved me." "Ma'am, please step back. Let us secure the scene." "Secure the scene? He already secured it. Those men kidnapped me." Harrison's face pressed harder into the concrete. The officer's knee dug deeper. "Ma'am, final warning. Step back." "I'm Lena Ellison. I own this building. That man is a hero." "Ma'am, we'll take your statement. But right now, he saved my life." They weren't listening. Harrison had known they wouldn't. He closed his eyes, tasted blood and concrete dust, and let them haul him to his feet. The ride to the station was silent, except for the radio chatter. Harrison sat in the back of the patrol car, cuffed, watching Sterling Tower disappear in the rearview mirror. The kidnappers were being loaded into ambulances. He was being loaded into a cage. The detective, Sullivan, 40-something, tired eyes, interviewed him in a windowless room at 1:37 a.m. "So you just happen to have military-grade combat training?" "I served 8 years." "Uh-huh. And you just happened to be on that parking level at that exact moment?" "I work there. I'm a janitor." Sullivan leaned back, arms crossed. "Right, a janitor. Who can take down 4 armed men in under 2 minutes? That's convenient." "It's the truth." "Why were you really on that level, Harrison?" "I told you I work there." Ms. Ellison says you saved her. But see, I'm looking at 4 men in the hospital with serious injuries, fractured skulls, broken bones. That's not saving someone. That's assault. They were kidnapping her. So you say. But from where I'm sitting, I see a pattern. A janitor with unexplained combat skills, access to executive areas, a CEO who might have Stockholm Syndrome protecting her attacker. Harrison's jaw clenched. I'm not. We'll let the DA sort it out. They booked him at 3:42 a.m. 4 counts of aggravated assault. Bail set at $50,000. Harrison sat in the holding cell, watching fluorescent lights flicker overhead, and thought about the pipe in his hand, the fear in those men's eyes, the way Lena's voice had broken when she screamed at the officers. He'd saved her life, and it was going to destroy his. The Veterans Crisis Foundation posted Harrison's bail at 9:47 a.m. Wednesday. A woman named Patricia with kind eyes and a VFW pin handed him a business card through the plexiglass. We help veterans in legal trouble. Call us if you need anything else. Harrison nodded, throat too tight to speak. He'd never asked them for help, didn't even know they existed. But someone had made a call, and now strangers were paying $50,000 to get him out of a cage for saving someone's life. The November air hit him like a slap when he stepped outside. His phone had 17 missed calls, 43 text messages. He didn't open any of them. Just walked the 6 blocks to his studio apartment in the north side. The kind of neighborhood where gunshots at 2 a.m. didn't even wake the neighbors anymore. The envelope was taped to his door, Sterling Property Management letterhead. Harrison's hands shook as he opened it. Dear Mr. Wells, effective immediately, your employment has been terminated for unauthorized use of force, exceeding job responsibilities, and creating a liability situation for Sterling Property Management. Final paycheck will be mailed within 14 days. Please return all company property immediately. He read it 3 times. Unauthorized use of force. He'd stopped a kidnapping, exceeded job responsibilities. He'd saved a woman's life, created a liability situation. Harrison crumpled the letter, threw it across his studio apartment, all 340 square feet of it. It landed near the hot plate that passed for a kitchen, the futon that passed for a bed, the cardboard box that passed for a dresser. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Check the news. He shouldn't have looked. Mysterious janitor uses military skills in parking garage confrontation. News Channel 7. Vigilante or hero? Questions surround violent rescue. The Metro Daily. Did janitor stage billionaire CEO kidnapping? Inconsistencies raise doubts. National Enquirer. Harrison's face stared back from every screen. His booking photo. Grainy security footage showing him standing over unconscious bodies. Commentary from experts questioning his motives, his background, his intentions. Social media was worse. Why does a janitor have special forces training? Suze. He probably knew the kidnappers, inside job. Of course they're calling him a hero, rich white woman syndrome. Or maybe he actually saved her life? Ever think of that? Black man with secret military past just happens to be there? Please. Harrison threw his phone on the futon. Applied for security positions online. 3 companies, all entry-level, all desperate for workers according to their websites. First response came in 20 minutes. Thank you for your interest. We've decided to pursue other candidates. Second response, unfortunately, you don't meet our current needs. Third response, after reviewing your application and recent media coverage, we cannot move forward at this time. By nightfall, Harrison sat in darkness, staring at the eviction notice on his kitchen counter. Already 3 weeks overdue before any of this started. Rent due Friday, no paycheck coming, no guarda, no prospects. 4 felony charges, 15 to 25 years if convicted. His phone lit up. News alert. Lena Ellison releases statement praising heroic janitor who saved her life. Harrison didn't open it. Just lay back on his futon, staring at water stains on the ceiling, and wondered if maybe the right thing to do would have been to keep mopping. At least then he'd still have a floor to mop. Lena stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse, 43 stories above the city, and watched police lights flash in the streets below. Wednesday, 2:17 p.m., 38 hours since 4 men had tried to kidnap her. 14 hours since she'd watched police arrest the man who'd saved her. Her new security team, 6 professionals from Sentinel Protection Services, moved through her penthouse like shadows. The old team was gone. David Chen, her head of security, was in custody, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, 25 years minimum. The betrayal still felt like a knife between her ribs. Her phone buzzed. Detective Sullivan, following up for the third time. Lena declined the call. She'd already given her statement twice. Harrison Wells saved my life. Arrest the right people. They hadn't listened. Ms. Ellison? James, her executive assistant, appeared in the doorway. Marcus Webb is here. The private investigator was 60, gray-haired, with the calm competence of someone who'd seen everything twice. Former FBI, 20 years with the Bureau before starting his own firm. What did you find? Lena asked. Webb laid a folder on her glass coffee table. Harrison Matthew Wells, 32, born in Chicago. Mother died when he was 9. I want to know about his military service. Webb opened the folder. Army Ranger, 8 years active duty, 3 deployments to Afghanistan, 3 Purple Hearts. He slid photographs across the table. Young Harrison in uniform, chest full of medals. Bronze Star with Valor for actions in Kandahar province. His unit walked into an ambush. 15 men. Harrison was the only survivor. Lena's throat tightened. Diagnosed with severe PTSD after discharge. Honorable discharge, full benefits. Should have been set for life. Webb's voice hardened. But the VA waitlist for mental health services was 18 months. No family support, father unknown, no siblings. Harrison tried 4 different jobs in 2 years. Couldn't hold any of them. PTSD episodes, panic attacks. And now, studio apartment in Northside, $950 a month. He's been 3 weeks behind on rent for the past 4 months. Worked as a janitor. Night shift, $28,000 a year. Webb closed the folder. The system gave him medals, then abandoned him to poverty. And now it's charging him with 4 felonies for using the skills it had taught him. Lena stared at the photographs. Harrison in uniform. Harrison receiving his Bronze Star. A decorated hero who'd been invisible to her every time she'd walked past him in her own building. She picked up her phone. James, get Rebecca Chen on the line, and Laura from PR. Ms. Ellison. Now, monsieur. Rebecca Chen answered on the first ring. Top defense attorney in the state. Lena had her on retainer for corporate litigation, but Rebecca's reputation had been built on civil rights cases. Rebecca, I need you to take a case pro bono. Harrison Wells, the janitor who saved my life. Lena, I've been following the news. I was hoping you'd call. How do we fight this? We expose it, the bias, the injustice. We make it impossible for them to prosecute without looking like exactly what they are. Laura Martinez, Lena's head of PR, conference called in. We're already drafting statements. But Lena, this is going to get ugly. They'll dig into your relationship with Harrison. They'll suggest things. Let them dig. I have nothing to hide. Lena looked at Harradine's military photo. This man saved my life. Now he's facing prison because of how he looks and where he was. I will not be silent about that. She disconnected, asked Webb for Harrison's phone number. Her hands shook as she dialed. 3 rings, 4. Hello? Harrison's voice was rough, exhausted. Mr. Wells, my name is Lena Ellison. You saved my life. Lena's reflection stared back from the window. Billionaire CEO in her glass tower, calling a man who couldn't make rent. Now I'm going to save yours. District Attorney Gerald Hammond stood behind a podium Thursday morning, cameras flashing, and condemned Harrison Wells with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. This office has a responsibility to pursue justice, regardless of the circumstances. Hammond adjusted his glasses, every inch the concerned public servant. Mr. Wells used excessive and potentially criminal force against 4 individuals. 3 suffered skull fractures. 1 has a collapsed lung. These injuries go far beyond reasonable self-defense. A reporter raised her hand, but he was stopping a kidnapping. Alleged kidnapping, and that's precisely the problem. Why does a janitor possess military-grade combat training? Why was he in that parking garage at that exact moment? Hammond paused for effect. We're investigating whether Mr. Wells had prior knowledge of this incident, whether he may have been involved with the alleged kidnappers. The press room erupted. Are you suggesting he staged this? I'm suggesting we need answers. 4 men are in the hospital. We can't ignore that because the perpetrator happened to save someone in the process. Perpetrator, not hero, not veteran. Perpetrator. Hammond took 2 more questions, then left the podium. His poll numbers had been dropping for 6 months. A high-profile conviction would fix that nicely, especially one this complicated, this racially charged. His base would love it. 3 hours later, Rebecca Chen held her own press conference. She wore a charcoal suit, her black hair pulled back, and she didn't smile once. Behind her, blown-up photographs. Harrison in uniform. Harrison receiving his Bronze Star. Harrison with his unit, 15 men who hadn't come home. Harrison Wells is a decorated Army Ranger with 3 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star for valor. He survived an ambush that killed his entire unit. He served this country with distinction for 8 years. Rebecca's voice cut through the room like a blade. On Tuesday night, he used the skills this nation taught him to save a woman's life. And for that, District Attorney Hammond wants to send him to prison for 25 years. Ms. Chen, what about the excessive force? Excessive force. Harrison disabled 4 armed kidnappers without killing a single one. That's not excessive. That's extraordinary restraint. She gestured to the photographs. This man could have killed them. His training taught him how. He chose not to. And now he's being prosecuted for that choice. Will you be arguing racial bias? I'll be arguing the facts, friends. When a white security guard uses force, he's a hero. When a black veteran uses force, he's a criminal. That's not justice, that's systemic bias. Rebecca fielded 12 more questions, each answer sharper than the last, then walked off stage. Her phone was already ringing. Hammond's office, demanding a meeting. She declined the call. In the Metropolitan Correctional Center, Marcus Whitmore sat across from his attorney, Richard Voss. $950 an hour, silk tie, Rolex that cost more than Harrison's annual salary. The media is making this about race, Marcus said. We can use that. How? That janitor, Wells, he's got a violent past, PTSD. We leak the right information, paint him as unstable, dangerous. Maybe he did save Lena. Or maybe he saw an opportunity and took it. Either way, we shift focus from me to him. Voss made notes. I know a reporter at the National Enquirer owes me a favor. Good. And Richard? Make sure they ask the right questions. Why was he really there? What else is he hiding? A man doesn't go from decorated soldier to minimum wage janitor without serious issues. By evening, news stories appeared online. Hero or menace? Janitor's troubled past raises questions. PTSD, veteran uses deadly skills. Was force justified? Sources say Wells had been acting strange for weeks. Social media exploded. Battle lines formed. Those who saw a hero, those who saw a threat, those who couldn't separate the two. Harrison sat in his apartment reading the articles, watching his life dissected by strangers who'd never met him. The legal battle wasn't just set, it was already being lost. Rebecca's investigator found the offshore account on Friday. Cayman Islands, opened 3 months ago under a shell corporation, Meridian Consulting, LLC. Signatory, Marcus Whitmore. Balance, $847,000 wired in increments over 8 weeks from accounts connected to Ellison Technologies vendor payments. He was embezzling, Rebecca told Lena over the phone. Small amounts, routing them through fake consulting contracts. But $847,000 isn't enough to disappear on. He needed more. $50 million, Lena said quietly. That's what they would have demanded for my ransom. And he would have negotiated it down to something reasonable. 20, maybe 25 million. Enough to make it look legitimate. Rebecca flipped through documents on her tablet. We pulled David Chen's phone records. 17 calls to a burner number in the 2 weeks before the kidnapping. That burner made calls to 3 of the 4 kidnappers. The conspiracy assembled itself like a puzzle. Whitmore, CFO with access to everything, planning his exit for months. Chen, head of security, providing schedules, access codes, camera blind spots. 4 contractors from Chen's former Marine unit, dishonorably discharged, desperate for money. The plan had been nearly perfect. Kidnap Lena on Tuesday night, hold her for 72 hours while Whitmore negotiated with the kidnappers. Pay the ransom from company funds. Lena would authorize anything to save her own life. Whitmore and Chen resign within the month. Citing stress, disappear to Paraguay, no extradition treaty, live like kings on $25 million. Harrison Wells, mopping floors at 11:47 p.m., had destroyed it in 90 seconds. We present this to Hammond, Rebecca said. He drops the charges against Harrison, focuses prosecution where it belongs. Do it. But Friday afternoon, before Rebecca could file the motion, the National Enquirer published a new story. Exclusive. Security footage shows Hero Janitor's brutal attack. The video showed Harrison's intervention, but edited. Slowed down to make each strike look more vicious. Cut to remove the kidnappers' weapons, the van, Lena's bound wrists. Just Harrison, moving like a trained killer, destroying 4 men who looked almost defenseless in the edited footage. The article included expert analysis from a former police detective. This isn't self-defense. This is someone who wanted to hurt people and found an excuse. And then the second bombshell. Sources: Wells had been watching CEO for weeks. Fabricated security logs, supposedly from Sterling Tower's system, showing Harrison's ID badge accessing the executive parking level at unusual times over the past month. Screenshots of a fake social media account, 8H Wells 32, that had been liking Lena's public posts and photos for 6 weeks. Was this rescue really spontaneous? Or did Harrison Wells orchestrate the entire situation to play hero and get close to a billionaire? The media erupted. Hero janitor or dangerous stalker? New evidence raises disturbing questions. Did Wells know about kidnapping in advance? Ellison Technologies CEO may be defending her attacker. Rebecca's phone exploded with calls. DA Hammond's office, suddenly confident again. Media requests. Even Lena's board of directors, concerned about her judgment. Harrison sat in his apartment, staring at footage of himself that had been butchered into something unrecognizable. Reading about a stalker's social media account he'd never created. He didn't even have social media. And watching his character assassination play out in real time. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Wells? A woman's voice, professional, cold. This is Jennifer Martinez from the district attorney's office. We'd like to offer you a plea deal. Plead guilty to 2 counts of assault, serve 3 to 5 years, and this all goes away. I didn't do anything wrong. The video suggests otherwise, and the stalking evidence is quite compelling. You should consider this offer carefully. If we go to trial, you're looking at 25 years. Harrison hung up. The perfect crime Whitmore had planned was collapsing, but he was taking Harrison down with him. Harrison walked into Ellison Technologies headquarters Monday morning, past security who recognized him from the news, past employees who stared and whispered, and took the elevator to the 42nd floor. He hadn't slept in 3 days. His court date was set for 2 weeks out. The plea deal sat on his kitchen counter like a loaded gun. 3 to 5 years, or risk 25. Lena's assistant tried to stop him. Mr. Wells, you can't just tell her I'm here. Lena appeared in her office doorway 30 seconds later. Still beautiful, still powerful, still the woman whose life he'd saved. She looked at him, and something in her expression, pity, maybe, or guilt, made Harrison's chest tighten. Harrison, come in. No. He stayed in the hallway. I need you to stop. Stop what? Fighting for me, the lawyers, the press conferences, all of it. Just stop. Lena stepped closer. Harrison, I'm not worth this. The words came out louder than he'd intended. Employees looked up from their desks. Harrison didn't care. I'm a broke janitor with PTSD who got lucky. That's it. You don't owe me anything. Take your life back. Let me handle mine. By pleading guilty to crimes you didn't commit? By surviving. That's what I do. I survive. Lena's jaw set. Come into my office, now. It wasn't a request. Harrison followed her inside. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The view probably cost more than he'd earn in 10 years. Lena closed the door, arms crossed. You're a decorated veteran who saved my life and is being persecuted for it. If I let them destroy you, I'm complicit in every injustice this system commits. This isn't about justice. This is about reality. They have video. They have evidence. They have fabricated bullshit that we're already debunking. Lena pulled up her tablet, thrust it toward him. Rebecca found something. 3 similar cases in the past 3 years. Security personnel using force during incidents at corporate properties. Harrison looked at the screen. 3 names. 3 faces. All white. James Corrigan, security guard at Patterson Industries, stopped an armed robbery, broke the suspect's arm and jaw, received a commendation from the mayor and a $10,000 bonus. She swiped. Ryan Mitchell, head of security at Westbrook Financial, intervened in a kidnapping attempt. Sound familiar? Put 2 men in the hospital, called a hero by every media outlet, hired as a consultant by the FBI. Another swipe. David Preston, corporate security at Chen Enterprises, stopped an assault in the parking garage. 3 broken ribs, fractured skull on the perpetrator. Given a promotion and praised for his decisive action. Lena set the tablet down. Not one of them was arrested. Not one faced charges. They got medals and raises and media praise. The only difference between you and them is skin color. I won't be silent about that. Harrison stared at the faces on the screen. Men who'd done exactly what he did. Men who'd been called heroes without question. The system is rigged against you, Lena continued. It was rigged before you saved me, and it'll be rigged after this trial. But if we fight, if we expose it, maybe we change something. For you. For every veteran of color who gets treated like a threat instead of a hero. And if we lose? Then we lose fighting, not on our knees. Harrison looked out the windows at the city below. Somewhere down there, Marcus Whitmore sat in a comfortable cell, orchestrating his defense. D.A. Hammond prepared his prosecution, seeing poll numbers instead of justice. The system churned forward, grinding up people who looked like Harrison and spitting them out. He thought about his unit. 15 men who hadn't made it home. Men who died believing in something bigger than themselves. Okay, Harrison said quietly. We fight. Lena nodded. Rebecca files our counter-evidence tomorrow. We expose Whitmore's conspiracy, the fabricated stalking evidence, and the systemic bias in your prosecution. All of it. And if they still convict me, then we appeal, and we keep appealing until they can't ignore the truth anymore. Lena extended her hand. You saved my life, Harrison. Let me help you save yours. Harrison shook her hand. The war wasn't over, but for the first time in days, he felt like he had ammunition. The trial began on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after Harrison saved Lena's life. Courtroom 4B, packed to capacity. Media in the back rows. Sketch artists capturing every moment. Outside, protesters held signs. Justice for Harrison on one side of the courthouse steps, law and order on the other. Harrison sat at the defense table in a borrowed suit, watching 12 jurors who would decide if heroism was a crime when you were black. Rebecca Chen stood for opening arguments, poised and lethal. Harrison Wells had 90 seconds to make a choice. Watch a woman die or use skills this nation taught him to save her life. He chose to save her. And for that choice, the state wants to imprison him for 25 years. D.A. Hammond countered with calculated outrage. 4 men hospitalized. Skull fractures, broken bones, internal bleeding. The defendant didn't just stop a crime. He brutalized 4 human beings. Excessive force isn't heroism, it's assault. Rebecca's first witness was Colonel James Martinez, retired Army Ranger instructor. 30 years teaching hand-to-hand combat at Fort Benning. He watched the unedited security footage, all 4 minutes, every angle, while the jury leaned forward in their seats. Colonel Martinez, in your professional opinion, was the force Mr. Wells used excessive? Martinez shook his head. Ma'am, what I saw in that video was textbook minimal force. Every strike was controlled, precise, calculated to disable without causing permanent damage. He could have killed all 4 men in under 30 seconds. He chose not to. That's not brutality. That's extraordinary restraint. Could you elaborate? Look at timestamp 11:48:17. The defendant has the first assailant in a chokehold. He could snap his neck. Instead, he applies pressure to the carotid artery, a blood choke that renders the target unconscious without injury. At 11:48:34, he disarms the second assailant and strikes the temporal mandibular joint. Again, incapacitating, but not lethal. Every single move demonstrates precision and control. Hammond's cross-examination was aggressive, but these men were still seriously injured because neutralizing armed, trained combatants without injury is impossible. The defendant minimized harm while protecting an innocent life. That's exactly what we taught him to do. The prosecution called its own expert, a police use of force consultant who'd never served in combat. Rebecca dismantled him in 14 minutes. On day 3, Lena took the stand. She wore navy blue, no jewelry except small diamond earrings. Her voice was steady, clear, devastating. She described the kidnapping, the van, the certainty she was going to die. Harrison appearing like something out of a movie, moving with precision that saved her life. "Ms. Ellison," Rebecca said, "can you describe Mr. Wells' demeanor during the rescue?" "Calm, controlled. He didn't speak except to tell me I was safe. There was no rage, no excess, just competence." Rebecca presented the comparison data. 3 cases, 3 white security guards, 3 use of force incidents, commendations, bonuses, media praise, 0 arrests, Hammond objected. "Relevance, Your Honor, goes to bias, Your Honor, the state's selective prosecution." "I'll allow it." Lena walked the jury through each case. James Corrigan's broken jaw and fractured arm on a robbery suspect. Hero. Ryan Mitchell's hospitalized kidnappers. Consultant to the FBI. David Preston's skull fracture victim. Promotion and praise. "And Mr. Wells?" Rebecca asked. "Arrested, charged with the 4 felonies, fired from his prime, and called a criminal for doing exactly what these men did. The only difference is Harrison is black." Hammond's cross-examination was calculated cruelty. "Ms. Ellison, isn't it possible your judgment is clouded? You experienced a trauma. You're grateful to Mr. Wells. Perhaps you're seeing heroism where there was simply violence?" Lena's eyes hardened. "My judgment built a $4 billion company from nothing. My judgment navigates billion-dollar acquisitions in global markets. My judgment tells me Harrison Wells is a hero being prosecuted for the color of his skin. I trust that judgment, Mr. Hammond. Do you trust yours?" The courtroom went silent. On day 4, Harrison testified. He spoke about Afghanistan, the ambush, 15 men who didn't come home, the guilt that made him hide from the world, working night shifts, staying invisible, convinced his survival was a mistake. "Why did you intervene that night?" Rebecca asked. Harrison's voice cracked. "Because I was tired of surviving while good people died. Because maybe my training could save a life instead of take one. Because it was the right thing to do." In closing arguments, Rebecca faced the jury. Is justice truly blind, or does it see color first and facts second? You decide. The jury deliberated for 97 minutes. "We find the defendant not guilty on all counts." The jury foreperson stood, paper trembling in her hands. "We find the defendant, Harrison Wells, not guilty on all counts." Harrison closed his eyes. Exhaled 4 years of survival, 3 weeks of hell, 97 minutes of waiting. Rebecca gripped his shoulder. Behind him, Lena's breath caught. Relief or vindication, or both. D.A. Hammond collected his files without looking at anyone. By evening, the city council would call for his resignation. By week's end, the state bar would open an ethics investigation. His career, built on conviction rates and political calculation, was over. Marcus Whitmore's trial lasted 6 days. The jury needed 40 minutes. 25 years for kidnapping, extortion, conspiracy, and attempted murder. No plea deal, no comfortable interrogation room, just a cell in a federal prison where his $800 an hour attorney couldn't reach him. On the courthouse steps, cameras surrounded Lena and Harrison. November wind whipped through downtown. Protesters had become supporters, their signs reading "Justice prevailed" and "Hero vindicated." Lena stepped to the microphone. 3 weeks ago, Harrison Wells saved my life. Today, justice finally recognized that. But this case exposed something deeper, the systemic failure of how we treat veterans, particularly veterans of color. Harrison is a decorated war hero who came home to poverty, PTSD, and a system that abandoned him. That ends today. She gestured to Harrison. I'm announcing the Wells Ellison Veterans Initiative, a $200 million foundation dedicated to veteran mental health services, career placement, and advocacy. We will ensure no veteran faces what Harrison faced: homelessness, unemployment, prosecution for doing what's right. Reporters shouted questions. Lena raised her hand. Harrison will lead this foundation as executive director. If he accepts. Harrison stood at the microphone, still not used to cameras, to attention, to being seen. I spent 4 years hiding from who I was, from what I'd been through, from the brothers I lost. I thought survival was enough, that keeping my head down and staying invisible was the only way forward. His voice steadied. But there are thousands of veterans like me, coming home broken, trying to survive in a system that gave us medals, then forgot we existed. If this foundation can help even one of them find their way back, then everything I went through was worth it. He paused. I accept. 6 months later, Harrison stood in his office, actual office, with windows and a desk and photographs on the wall of his unit, the men who didn't make it home, and reviewed the numbers. 300 veterans placed in meaningful careers, 2,000 connected with mental health services, 15 corporate partnerships, a congressional hearing scheduled for next week. His phone buzzed. Text from Lena. Ready for tomorrow? Tomorrow. Congressional testimony on veteran affairs and systemic bias in the justice system. Harrison Wells, former janitor, speaking to lawmakers about changing the system that had tried to destroy him. Ready as I'll ever be. The hearing room was smaller than he'd expected. 20 senators, C-SPAN cameras, Lena sitting in the front row. Not as his savior or benefactor, but as his partner, his ally. Mr. Wells, Senator Richardson began, you've been through an extraordinary ordeal. What would you say to other veterans struggling with similar challenges? Harrison thought about the ambush, the guilt, the years of hiding, the night he chose to fight instead of walk away. I'd tell them that survival isn't the end goal, it's the starting point. That the skills we learned, the trauma we carry, the battles we fought, they don't have to define us. They can fuel us, help us fight for something bigger. He looked at Lena, at Rebecca in the back row, at the veterans who'd come to watch his testimony. I spent years believing my survival was a mistake, that I didn't deserve to be the one who made it home. Now I understand it was my second chance. After the hearing, Harrison and Lena walked through Washington, past monuments to other wars, other soldiers, other survivors who'd found purpose in their pain. You did good today, Lena said. We did good. She smiled. Partnership? Partnership. Not bound by debt, not tied by obligation. Just two people who'd seen each other's full humanity in the worst of circumstances and chosen to fight for a better system together. Harrison Wells had finally stopped hiding and started living.